We're reading A Course in Miracles, Chapter 10, The Idols of Sickness, and this is section 4, The End of Sickness. All magic is an attempt at reconciling the irreconcilable. All religion is the recognition that the irreconcilable cannot be reconciled. Sickness and perfection are irreconcilable. If God created you perfect, you are perfect. If you believe you can be sick, you have placed other gods before him. God is not at war with the God of sickness you made, but you are. He is the symbol of deciding against God, and you are afraid of him because he cannot be reconciled with God's will. If you attack him, you will make him real to you. But if you refuse to worship him in whatever form he may appear to you, and wherever you think you see him, he will disappear into the nothingness out of which he was made. Reality can dawn only on an unclouded mind. It is always there to be accepted, but its acceptance depends on your willingness to have it. To know reality must involve the willingness to judge unreality for what it is. To overlook nothingness is merely to judge it correctly, and because of your ability to evaluate it truly, to let it go. Knowledge cannot dawn on a mind full of illusions because truth and illusions are irreconcilable. Truth is whole and cannot be known by part of a mind. The sonship cannot be perceived as partly sick because to perceive it that way is not to perceive it at all. If the sonship is one, it is one in all respects. Oneness cannot be divided. If you perceive other gods, your mind is split, and you will not be able to limit the split, because it is the sign that you have removed part of your mind from God's will. This means it is out of control. To be out of control is to be out of reason, and then the mind does become unreasonable. By defining the mind wrongly, you perceive it as functioning wrongly. God's laws will keep your mind at peace because peace is his will, and his laws are established to uphold it. His are the laws of freedom, but yours are the laws of bondage. Since freedom and bondage are irreconcilable, their laws cannot be understood together. The laws of God work only for your good, and there are no other laws beside his. Everything else is merely lawless and therefore chaotic. Yet God himself has protected everything he created by his laws. Everything that is not under them does not exist. Laws of chaos, quote unquote, laws of chaos, is a meaningless term. Creation is perfectly lawful, and the chaotic is without meaning because it is without God. You have, quote, given, unquote, your peace to the gods you made, but they are not there to take it from you, and you cannot give it to them. You are not free to give up freedom, but only to deny it. You cannot do what God did not intend, because what he did not intend does not happen. Your gods do not bring chaos. You are endowing them with chaos and accepting it of them. All this has never been. Nothing but the laws of God has ever been, and nothing but his will ever be. You were created through his laws and by his will, and the manner of your creation established you a creator. What you have made is so unworthy of you that you could hardly want it if you were willing to see it as it is. You will see nothing at all, and your vision will automatically look beyond it to what is in you and all around you. Reality cannot break through the obstructions you interpose, but it will envelop you completely when you let them go. When you have experienced the protection of God, the making of idols becomes inconceivable. There are no strange images in the mind of God, and what is not in his mind cannot be in yours, because you are of one mind, and that mind belongs to him. It is yours because it belongs to him, for to him ownership is sharing. And if it is so for him, it is so for you. His definitions are his laws, for by them he established the universe as what it is. No false gods you attempt to interpose between yourself and your reality affect truth at all. Peace is yours because God created you, and he created nothing else. The miracle is the act of a Son of God who has laid aside all false gods and calls on his brothers to do likewise. It is an act of faith because it is the recognition that his brothers can do it. It is a call to the Holy Spirit in his mind, a call that is strengthened by joining. Because the miracle worker has heard God's voice, he strengthens it in a sick brother by weakening his belief in sickness which he does not share. The power of one mind can shine into another because all the lamps of God were lit by the same spark. It is everywhere and it is eternal. In many, only the spark remains, for the great rays are obscured. Yet God has kept the spark alive so that the rays can never be completely forgotten. If you but see the little spark, you will learn of the greater light, for the rays are there unseen. Perceiving the spark will heal, but knowing the light will create. Yet in the returning, the little light must be acknowledged first, for the separation was a descent from magnitude to littleness. But the spark is still as pure as the great light because it is the remaining call of creation. Put all your faith in it, and God himself will answer you. Okay, this section is the end of sickness. And Jesus is once again talking about sickness. And what is sick? Sickness is the idols of the ego, and the ego, once again, is the voice for separation, is the thought system. Jesus calls it a thought system, based in the idea of separation. So the ego is based in the idea of separation, that it is possible to be separate from God, and that not only possible, that it is a reality, and that is the ego's reality, that we are separate from God, and never the twain shall meet. We will never, we are separate from each other. Ego does not even know of God, actually, but there is separation, and it is good. It is very good, and it needs to keep going indefinitely, forever. Whereas the Holy Spirit is also presenting a thought system, just like the ego, but the Holy Spirit's thought system is based in the idea of the atonement, which is that separation is an impossibility. It never happened, could never happen. We are still, as Jesus said a little earlier in the chapter, we are still at home in God. We have never left God. That is our only reality. That is our true reality. And anything else that is anything having to do with separation is of the ego. And it may be very real for us from where we are, that the sickness, quote unquote sickness of the ego, the idols of the ego. But the reality is, it is totally nothing and completely meaningless. Jesus says here, reality cannot break through the obstructions you interpose, but it will envelop you completely when you let them go. So once again, Jesus is saying, why is, the Holy Spirit is the still small voice. Why is it the still small voice? Because love does not force or coerce. Jesus cannot also force you to do anything. He can only present the situation as he knows it to be. But he cannot force you. That is your choice. Everything is your choice. What you choose to do, no one, love cannot force. So reality can't break, the sun can't break through, the great rays can't break through unless you are open to that. And all you need is that little spark. And then the Holy Spirit can do the rest. And that's what Jesus calls the little willingness. All you need is that little spark or that little willingness, and the Holy Spirit will do the rest. All you need is that openness, that, like, this is not working out and I need help, and I'm open to seeing things a different way than how I'm seeing them. And Jesus says, in many only the spark remains, for the great rays are obscured. That's the human condition. For most of us, we don't experience the glory, the full glory of God, which is really ourself, our true self, because we just don't know, or because the clouds are in the way, the idols of the ego. We want this. We are so entranced with the separation. We are so, you could say, locked in, or mired in the separation of the ego, that we just cannot, for the life of us, we cannot see the sun that is just dying to come in. We've shut the doors. We've shut all the doors of the house to banish the sun. And Jesus is basically, this whole course is like, in a way, is like pleading with us. Will you just open the damn doors already? There's a lot of nuances here that we could go into, but really it's all, the Course is really just saying the same thing over and over again in so many ways, so many creative ways, using different terms. Now Jesus is using the term sickness and idolatry, which is hearkening back to the Bible, obviously. And he's keeps talking about creation, but the creation he's talking about is not like the creation of the physical universe. God, according to the Course, God did not create the physical universe. God can only create like God, which is love. So God only creates love. That is the only creation. and that's the only reality. The material universe is a vast illusion. The Course calls it a vast illusion, and it's what the Hindus and the Eastern traditions, mainly Hinduism, has the idea of Maya as this is all a smokescreen. It's all a way to hide from God, and Jesus explains what that is and why that is. But essentially, the idea is that we are deathly afraid because we feel that we have sinned against God, and that God will punish us, and that we can never return home. It's the prodigal son story. We can never return home. Meanwhile, God, who's like the sun, the great light, doesn't have any problem with anything. He's just shining the light like the sun. The sun never stops shining. The clouds could get in the way. The sun can be obscured in different ways, but the sun never stops shining. The sun is always there, just waiting for us. So, and we are the sun, the S-O-N. I was talking about the S-U-N, but we are the sun, the S-O-N, the only sun. We are all the Son, the one Son of God. And we have just momentarily, temporarily forgotten who we are, what we are. And it's all good. We're all going to get there in our own good time. And if you're listening to this, then you're probably well on your way, and you're waking up from the dream, and you're seeing things, you're starting to see things as they really are. And it can be disconcerting, it can be scary, it can be upsetting, but ultimately it will be joyful and liberating, and the best thing ever, because it's the only thing, really. So thank you for listening, and I would always love any comments, questions, feedback, anything that you want to share. See you next time. We're going to read the denial of God. See you soon.